Hello, this is MTG Degree, and my name is Luke, and we have a guest with us here today, and his name is John.
Hi there.
Yeah, so I met John at the Star City Open in Columbus, and he was running this really interesting white deck. We've decided to bring him on and have him talk to us about it.
Thank you, honored.
So I guess go ahead and just introduce what your deck is all about.
Okay, my deck is basically a traditional white weenie deck. I came up with the original concept for this deck last year. Everybody was running pretty much mono black devotion, mono blue devotion, and Esper control. And that was pretty much all that was seen. But I ended up making a Boros aggro deck, and then after that, I seemed to have problems color access, as any multicolored deck typically does. So then I wanted to strip out one of the two colors. Red had already been done, so I said, oh, what the heck, let's try white. And my white deck was extremely effective. Now, of course, after rotation, I wanted to be able to build something on a very similar concept, and this is the build that I've got.
I don't know if you want to go through the creatures first, and
Sure.
about those.
No problem. Let me explain. There's only 20 land in this deck because the average casting cost for this entire deck is 1.45. Of the 40 spells in this deck, 27 of them cost 1 mana. Start off creatures-wise. I have 16 1-drops. 4 Mardu-Woe Bringers, 4 Favored Hoplites, 4 Loyal Pegasus, and 4 Soldier of the Pantheon. 3 of these creatures are 2/1s with some sort of built-in ability. And the other, Favored Hoplite, has a really nice heroic ability in it that helps stay alive from all types of removal.
Right, it gives +1/+1 counters, right?
Exactly, and all damage dealt to it for the remainder of the turn is reduced to 0.
And then I'm seeing some 2 and 3 drops on
Correct.
there.
Yep, in the 2-drop slot, we have 4 Seeker of the Way, which everybody is very familiar with in Standard currently. He's a total powerhouse. And 4 Phalanx Leader. This is a card that isn't really seeing much tournament play right now at the moment, which honestly surprises me. His heroic ability gives +1/+1 counters to all of your creatures.
Yeah, I actually was looking at your list and didn't recognize the card because nobody plays it. And when I looked at it, I thought, like, this is ridiculous. How is nobody playing this?
Exactly, and when we get into the non-creature spells, I'll show you other ways that this thing just completely gets exploited.
Yeah, and then we've got 1 3-drop.
Yep, and of course he's Brimaz, and I'm only running 2 of him. The key for this deck is being able to play every single card you got every single turn. Playing 3 Brimazes or more is simply counterintuitive to that strategy.
Right, that seems like a slow, grindy type thing if you have too many of them. Alright, well, let's talk non-creature spells. I count 14 of them.
Correct. The first 2 are 4-ofs, and they are Defiant Strike and God's Willings. These 8 cards essentially shrink your deck down to 52 cards. I say that because Defiant Strike says, draw a card. And God's Willing gives you the protection of the color and has, of course, Scry. So if the card on top is not good to the situation, put it on the bottom. You've essentially eliminated a bad draw step.
Right, and that's something that I've thought about in some decks, which is the weirdness of scry lands and fetch lands together. Because you're throwing that thing on the bottom, and then if you crack a fetch land, you're shuffling it back in not on the bottom. And, you might come up with the same card you don't want.
Exactly.
Right,
exactly.
Whereas we have none of that problem here. Right, and then what are your other 2 sets of 3?
Yep, there are 3 Spears of Heliod, which essentially is a Crusade's ability. It gives all my creatures +1/+1. But the other ability the Spear has cannot be understated, that for 1 and 2 white, you get to destroy a creature that's dealt damage to you. But the Spears essentially, turn all of my creatures from extremely efficient to ridiculously efficient.
Right.
And the last card is one that is completely under the radar.
And I love this card, by the way.
I cannot speak more highly of this card. Let me just say that every single time I have cast this card in a tournament match, I've won. Every single time.
That's a pretty good track record.
Yeah, it's Launch the Fleet. Now, for those of you who don't know what it does, it costs 1 white. It has Strive for a colorless. For every creature you target, when you attack, you get a 1/1 soldier token.
Yeah.
Why aren't people playing this?
Yeah, it's kind of an explosion.
Exactly. So now, we combine the explosiveness power of that with the fact that you could have a Phalanx Leader in play or a Seeker of the Way or whatever, and you target these guys, and all of a sudden you go from a totally innocuous board to your creatures becoming gargantuan and your army doubling in size in a single turn.
Right.
It's just totally overwhelming, and frankly, nobody sees it coming.
And Spear of Heliod makes all those 1/1 soldiers 2/2s if it should be out.
Exactly. And then, heaven forbid, if you have like a mana back and you attack with everybody, and then you have a Phalanx Leader in play, after blocking is Defiant.
Oh, gross. Gross. Exactly. I didn't even see that.
Exactly. Defiant Strike the Phalanx Leader, or God's Willing the Phalanx Leader. All your tokens are now 3/3s. It can be really bad really fast.
Now, speaking of tokens that go up the ladder, I'm going to surprise you here with a segment where we talk about home brewing. I pulled out some cards that just excited me with your deck list, because everyone tries to make stuff their own.
Absolutely.
All right, so the first one that I saw was just a simple Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx. I was wondering, how do you feel about maybe just 2 of these in the deck?
I was actually running, just before the last set got put in, I was running 21 lands, which was 19 planes and 2 Nykthos Shrine to Nyx. Frankly, it didn't help. I really thought it was going to be good. I was also experimenting with the Johnny's Presence because of its strive ability as well,
right.
And it simply never came together.
Right. The next thing that I'd talk about is actually something to turn on that Nykthos, which is maybe a Vanguard of Brimaz. Have you looked much at this card? I imagine you have.
Yes, of course I did. But the problem ended up being there is, what 2-drop am I going to cut in replacement for that? We've got 4 Phalanx Leaders and 4 Seeker of the Ways. The simple analysis is, which of those creatures in Vanguard, of those 3, which is the weakest? It's Vanguard.
Right, yeah. But this is true. Let's see, what is another card that I was thinking about? Oh yeah, so this, I don't know if this is win more or it just excites me because it's in the new set, but I guess we need to imagine to ourselves that we have 4 Cave of Koilos and maybe like 3 Temple of Silences, which I know come in tapped, but bear with me. I feel like this card, Harsh Sustenance and Launch the Fleet, might be the most gross combo. I don't know, I just get excited when I see that much damage.
I totally agree with you. It's an absolutely nasty combo. There are lots of things you can do if you want to splash in a second color. That's one of them. Another one that I personally like is splashing red and putting in Deflecting Palm.
Oh, yeah.
Which, again, nobody is expecting, etc. Nonetheless, it is an absolutely fantastic idea. If you would like to run that way, go for it. Me, I am trying to be a total mono-white purist. So that means all dual lands are out, all of the black cards are out. Anything that is not white, I'm simply not going to be playing.
Now, I'm kind of with you on that. My trade binder has a few pages in the back that are just angels. I'm a collector of those.
Nice.
And those are pretty much just white, as we know.
Yep.
And then the last card that I wanted to talk about is the card that I think everyone is talking about right now. And he would be taking the slot from Brimaz, and it's Monastery Mentor. They both make tokens, but these ones have prowess. And that, I think that's exciting quite a few people, including myself.
Absolutely. That's probably one of the most powerful cards that's in the set. I'm seriously contemplating substituting that out for Brimaz. I don't know. If Monastery Mentor ends up being as strong as everybody else is making it out to be, I can easily see that getting switched.
Right, yeah, it's so good. What matchup would you say is worst for this deck?
Green Devotion, Splash, Black. The Splash for Black would only have Doomwake Giant and Whip. Maybe a removal spell. That's about it. This is because they can obviously mana ramp like crazy, and they've got all kinds of extra card draw cards that can put down fat creatures in a hurry, and they can keep up even with an explosive draw out of this. But that's pretty much it.
in order to beat those decks, what's the current plan on the sideboard?
Well, the sideboard right now is pretty generic because we don't know how the metagame is going. But I have it turned off of what I basically used last year, and it's very effective. Right off the top, 3 Banishing Lights for just basically removal of anything that I can't handle. The second card I have is 3 Devouring Lights. I can tell you enough that it has caught more people by surprise. Exile an attacking or defending creature, but the fact that it has Convoke. I've had 1 mana in play, and a Brimaz, and a guy attacks me with 2 creatures going, well, you can't block the second one, so you're dead. And I'm like, well, not really. I block 1, trigger, get the token, tap Brimaz and the token and my land, and Convoke, Devouring Light the other creature. I'm still alive. The swing back kills you. I also have 3 erases in the sideboard.
And we know what this is for, right?
Oh, a number of things. There are so many things out there right now, it's ridiculous. Number 1 is probably Courser of Crewfix. Number 2, right next to it, is Whip of Erebos. Go figure. Those are the 2 things that are the biggest things. Doomwake Giant, yeah, but Banishing Light and Devouring Light take care of those guys.
What about Jeskai Ascendancy?
That hasn't actually seen all that much play in my area. And frankly,
okay, gotcha.
Frankly, it's too slow.
Right. Now, the next card that I see looks like an answer to Doomwake Giant.
Hushwing Gryff?
Yeah.
Hushwing Gryff is an absolute beast against all of these Abzan decks, to be frank. Because those decks are completely trigger-based. It completely hoses Doomwake. It completely hoses Siege Rhino. It completely hoses Hornet Queen.
Which, yeah, is pretty important.
The last card that's in the sideboard is a new one from Fates, which is Valorous Stance. It's a wonderful double-edged sword because this thing can not only work, for example, against Abzan, you can either destroy something that has a toughness of 4 or greater, or save one of your own from a removal, depending upon which situation suits you.
At the tournament, I remember you saying how much damage you had done to somebody in 1 turn. And I remember it being obscene, but I don't remember what it was. Do you remember?
I think the record that I've done on turn 6 was over 60 points of damage.
Yeah, that's pretty gross.
It was, at that point, I was still running the Niktos Shrine to Nyx, and I had 10 Devotion in play. And I did a double launch the fleet for 5, targeting 2 Phalanx Leaders, and I had a Seeker of the Way in play, so that gave me 10 tokens.
Oh my god. Right. That is so nasty.
Exactly.
I'm forgetting what I was going to say next. But, are there any closing thoughts about your deck that you'd like to include?
Just that. Shuffle up and play it. Just like how Tom Ross has that blue-white heroic deck that he championed and now it seems to be taking off. This is another deck that I sincerely know is a Tier 1 deck. This thing can and does go toe-to-toe with anything out there currently being played in the standard metagame. If you're not a believer, shuffle this thing up, play it, and see what power it's got.
I actually have some of these cards in the mail because I want to sleeve this thing up and bring it somewhere.
Please do. Let me know how it goes.
Alright, well, it's been fantastic having you.
Thank you.
This has been MTGD... well, we'll edit that part out, shall we? This has been MTG Degree. My name is Luke, and we'll see you next video.